bright as I'll ever be. Good morning, Columbus. Welcome to Down the Garden Path. It's our weekly landscape and gardening show brought to you by Greenscapes Landscape Company. I'm your host, Bill Gerhard. I'm the owner of Greenscapes, and we're celebrating our 41st year in the landscape business. Today, we're going to have some gardening tips for you and what to look for right now in your garden. And after that, we're going to have a segment also on careers in landscaping. So I asked Mark Moore to co-host the show with me today. Welcome back, Mark.
Morning, Bill. How are you this morning?
Doing great. It's a beautiful Sunday. Mark, your path to a career in the green world is a little bit different, and I think it'd be appropriate just to share that. Some of your background, because
I grew up on a farm and moved to the city when parents made some job changes, and grew up in a town, city of Bexley, here on the Near East Side. Started as a summer worker, fell in love with the work in the grounds department, and became the city forester, and then retired from there, and now I'm just waiting for Mama to retire and working with you. So love the green industry. Yes.
You're also a certified master arborist.
Correct.
Which is a big deal. So you're a tree expert. You had all that experience, 30 years in Bexley of taking care of mature trees.
Correct.
Planting trees. So I consider you an expert.
In Albert Einstein's world, anybody who's put 10,000 hours into something is considered an expert.
Really?
So, yep.
Well, I might be an expert too. So, I'd like to always talk to you about what's going on in the plant world and what insects or diseases are current.
Mm-hmm.
We're going into late summer, early fall now.
Correct.
And some of the early insects have gone.
Correct.
And but what should homeowners be looking for right now? What should they be treating for in their landscape, lawn, plants?
Well, once again, the lovely Central Ohio weather is so up and down. We've gone from high 90s to now we've kind of gone into a wet season, which
we're going in that cool early fall type season. Yep.
Right. So it is rearing its ugly head with some diseases, and some diseases that we typically see in the fall. But not only that, just an example is anthracnose is showing itself this time not on London plains. It's actually showing itself on the Acer species.
The maples.
Yeah, the
I've
maples.
seen it do that before. Yeah.
So, and that's not very common, but when we have these
that's different than anthrax.
Correct.
Anthracnose is a disease that
fungal disease that attacks the leaves.
Yeah.
Very rarely will kill a tree unless the tree is already stressed from something else. Unfortunately, it will make it unsightly. We're seeing powdery mildew early this year, which is the white fungus that gets on roses and zinnias and certain species of tree, the London plains in particular. Because of the wet season, apparently Columbus area has had 9 3/4 inches in the last 2 weeks. So I got to experience all of it firsthand because 2 weeks ago we were camping in it. But so there's not much you can do there other than making sure that your plants are planted properly, making sure that you're mulching properly. If you're over mulching, obviously it's going to hold a lot of that moisture in the ground, going to cause a lot of those fungal issues. But you are going to find some fungal issues in your mulch as well, especially if it is too thick. We are starting to see some puffballs, which is a and I don't know the scientific name for puffballs, but it's just a little round ball that as they dry out, if you kick them, they'll break open and the spores will fly all over. We used to do it when we were kids. We're starting to see dog vomit fungus, which is what it's called. And that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like somebody
got sick
in the mulch. Yeah. And it's
you can scoop that kind of stuff out and then take your mulch and turn it over just to dry it out a little bit, get some air in it.
Correct. And it does not affect the plants. It can get on certain plants, but it's just very easily
powdery
controlled.
Mildew and anthracnose is more of an unsightly type nuisance, and the leaves may drop. Probably rake those up and get them out of there. I do spray my plants for powdery mildew because I've got magnolia, I've got some peonies, and then I've got some stuff in my apple trees. So I'll spray it with Captan.
Right.
or something like that. But that's a preventative. If you don't spray it before it occurs, it's not going to help you a whole lot.
Right. You can use the copper sulfate dusts and things like that to control some of the funguses, particularly on roses and.
The other thing I do for like the magnolia, I keep it thinned out because you know how thick it's a Jane magnolia.
Okay.
So
it's very thick.
And I'll go in there and I'll take some of the outside branches off, tips, but I also go in and thin out the whole inside of it to keep the air light coming in.
And that was going to be one of my suggestions is if you are starting to see some of these, a lot of times it can be controlled just through general maintenance, picking up those leaves that have fallen. You don't want to mow them into the yard because the fungus is still there, and then every time it rains or you mow, you're actually blowing those spores right back up on the plant.
Right.
But also there are mechanical controls, which would be to thin out your trees. A lot of times when you do start to see some of these diseases, it's because your trees haven't been pruned on a regular cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And we recommend for certain species like crab apples and magnolias every 3 to 5 years. Some of your larger, more mature trees, it's typically every 5 to 7, depending on overall health of the tree. So as far as any other diseases, I'm not seeing anything else, but the insect world is definitely starting to come alive.
Yeah, we were talking earlier today about why are the insects so pervasive this year, and it goes back to that mild winter.
That is the start of it. We didn't get a kill off. We're also seeing some physiological things on trees where they didn't go to dormancy. So if the plant's active in winter, the insects are active in winter. That doesn't mean that they're feeding like they would normally do in spring and summer, but and they won't be visible. But now that their populations have had a chance to grow, they're becoming more visible. For example, we're seeing both cool and warm season spider mites, particularly on locust trees.
Honey locust, yep.
I actually had to spray the nursery last week for those. Flea beetles, which is typically more of a nursery pest in propagation nurseries. I'm actually seeing them in landscapes, and it's just a little tiny black flea beetle that can fly, so they can be
sucked from the underside of the leaf.
They will.
That's the problem with a lot of these insects.
Right.
When they are sucking insects, they're under the leaf. It's hard to get spray on them, or even see them. Really, like the mites are so tiny, you'd have to know what you're looking for.
Right, and that's one of the best ways to. If you see yellowing leaves on your locust tree, one way, if you have a low enough branch, you can take a white piece of paper, do what we call the tap test. You can hold that white piece of paper under that branch, just tap the top of the branch, look at the white piece of paper. If you see black or yellow specks crawling around, those are warm and cool season spider mites. Yep. And they do need. Now if you see red ones running around, those are actually good spider mites. So they're, if you're not seeing a complete notebook sheet of paper covered in yellow and black specks and you're seeing red specks on there, those are actually red spider mites that are feeding on those cool and warm season spider mites. So,
I did not know that.
Yeah, there are several spider mites that are actually assassins. So if you're not seeing a heavy infestation and you're not, your tree's not shedding a lot of yellow leaves, then your control may already be there by natural biologics. But if you're seeing a lot of yellowing leaves, then you definitely need to get.
Well, spruce trees also get the spider mites.
The spruce trees, so far we have not seen many spruce mites yet this year, and that could be because of the rains. There are some that are actually very susceptible to high rain seasons.
Yeah, too wet. Mm-hmm.
And they actually get killed by that water. One of the best controls on a small tree or a small spruce for spider mites, because they are a soft-bodied insect, is just a very strong stream of water out of your garden hose. So you don't always have to go to the garden center and buy a chemical.
One thing that we do, and we design and install landscapes, as residential, commercial, but one thing that you started in the nursery is that the plants that the people are buying, you're treating them for these insects.
Correct.
Before they leave the nursery.
Correct. We treat them with a systemic, right?
Insecticide that will be in the plant.
Correct. for that first year.
That's so important. Yeah.
And there's
like a safari or one of those
or imidacloprid, merit.
Okay.
Both of those, or even mallet 2F. All three of those chemicals
they're safe for the consumer. So when I bring that plant out, it's the insecticide is in the plant system. It's not in the soil necessarily.
Correct.
It's already been uptake by the plant.
Correct.
And it helps protect that plant for that first year. And the other thing you do is you spray the plants with a antidesicant.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. And that's particularly on evergreens. With our up and down weathers in central Ohio, what that allows that plant to do is not lose its moisture content, and we have less wilting after install. So it gets you a little more time in between waterings, but again, the recommendation is always to water at least an inch per week.
I've always felt like Greenscapes designs are great designs. They're premier type designs, but I also believe that the plant material that you buy is superior to none. I mean, it's
absolutely
they're superior to all, I should say. But
you start with a healthy plant, you start off in the right foot.
Yeah.
So if the root system isn't functioning correctly and it's not getting maintained properly, you're inviting these diseases and insects to start attacking that plant.
Right. And we do maintenance. We do a lot of residential maintenance. People see us as an install company, but we do go out and maintain landscapes for people after we put it in. If they want that service, we can maintain.
Correct.
We keep an eye on these insects. What's nice about if you hire a professional landscape company like Greenscapes, we have knowledge of what the insects are doing in the area. So if we know that one part of your neighborhood has an insect infestation, chances are they're in that area, so we can treat for that particular insect.
Perfect example is bagworms were horrible in Groveport this year.
Yes, they were.
And we knew that coming into the season, bringing plants into the nursery. So immediately those plants were treated with a systemic pesticide to make sure that
that we aren't exporting.
We're not exporting bugs. And we're not giving them to anybody else. We want our material to lead to that job site as perfect as possible. So
there's something I noticed. I like to play golf on the weekends. I'm still not that great at it, but I still enjoy it. But I'm seeing a lot of Japanese beetles on the golf greens.
This is a particularly bad year for Japanese beetles. They are just now coming up out of the ground. So here in the next month, you're definitely, if you're seeing Japanese beetles in your yard or on your plants, or if you're seeing turf dieback because of Japanese beetles, here in the next 2 to 4 weeks, you're definitely going to want to treat for Japanese beetle grubs. So that, unfortunately, the damage is already done this year. They've already hatched. The new eggs will be laid here in the next 2 to 4 weeks. That's why it's so important that you get that chemical treatment down in the yard. And again, it's a very simple treatment. It's very low toxicity to any pets, humans. It's washed in with your irrigation or the next rain, so there's very low contact.
I think grub control is going to be a major problem,
Right. Well, at the same time of doing that treatment,
we haven't treated for years for it.
No, we haven't, because we've had such wet springs. This spring we didn't have, and we've had cold winters, so it's kept their numbers in check. But this spring we did not have that. So any grubs that were in the ground, they were able to hatch this year, and they didn't get drowned. I know that is drowned a word?
Drowned. Close enough.
Just drowned. Okay. Anyway, so much for my education, right? But anyway, yeah. So, but yeah, when up to now, like I said, we've had great rains in the spring. This year they cut off a little earlier than normal, and then we had that nice dry spell, so they were able to definitely survive our winter and spring this year and cause us a lot of havoc. You want trees that you will typically see that damage on are little leaf lindens. They love little leaf lindens, and one way to know is just look in the top of that tree, and if you see skeletonized leaves or the insect themselves still feeding,
you can treat for the Japanese beetles that are feeding on your tree. It's not necessary. If you have like a knockout rose or rose, I probably would do it.
Right.
But the tree, in a few weeks they're going to go into another phase of their life.
Right. Right.
and be gone.
They've mated.
So it's cosmetic, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
The males are going to die off. The females are going to lay their eggs, and then they're going to die off, and then it starts the process all over again. And they'll go through their 3 instars under the soil. And the reason for the treatment in late July, early August is because those eggs are being laid. Those larvae will start to hatch out of those eggs, start to burrow themselves deeper into the soil, and while they're at that top of that soil, you can control them much easier now than you can
when they go deeper
later.
Right.
Some people, you can do a late spring application as those adult grubs are starting to come up, but by then the amount of chemical is totally different, and it's much simpler to control them when they're in that first instar larval stage than trying to control them in their third instar larval stage just before they become that actual flying insect, and control them that way.
Well,
so
it gets pretty technical. If you have questions or need some help, you can call Greenscapes at 614-837-1869. We do put information on our website, which is greenscapes.net, and you can see all of our jobs we're working on too.
Absolutely.
So we'll be back in the next segment. I want to talk about careers at Greenscapes and in the green industry.
Sounds good.
Good job.
Too technical?
Not technical enough. You're doing great. That's
You
what
only
people
got
want.
30 minutes, right? Or 27?
Yeah, but that's what
Yeah.
people want. I mean, if they don't understand it, then they're going to know to call you guys. That's the point, is to show that you have that technical knowledge. I mean, allegedly. I think Bill does. I don't know about you, swimming guy.
Bring it on, dude. I'll meet you behind.
I'll meet you at the garage sale this weekend.
Come on over. I got some hunting stuff in the sale.
I'll
Some
bring
camouflage.
some cash with me. I can only wear that to work. All right, don't forget you're live, so people are watching.
You ready, fella?
I guess. I didn't know we were
Pan
live.
around the room. Who else is in the room?
These are all of our support staff. Say hi, everybody. All right. Whenever you're ready.
Yep. Welcome back to Down the Garden Path. I'm Bill Gerhardt with Greenscapes. Yeah, cut that. Okay, ready? Hit it.
Okay.
Little tongue-tied. Ready?
Welcome back to Down the Garden Path. I'm Bill Gerhardt with Greenscapes Landscape Company, and Mark Moore is here today, and also from Greenscapes.
Yep.
And Mark, you're involved with our new hires and training them in safety, but also you take them out and you train them on how to install our plant material and maintain landscapes. So,
Well, it actually goes a little further than that. I don't just train them how to install, I train them how to handle the material as well, so that when it gets to the job site, what we've loaded on the truck still looks as good as what we loaded on the truck when it
Right.
comes off the truck. So I'm sure everybody has seen or done, they buy a shrub, they put it in the back of the pickup truck, and you see somebody grab it by the head and pull it out of the truck, and don't think that you've done any leaf damage or anything to the branches, but you always want to handle that plant material by the ball or by the container, not by the plant, so that it does stay in that pristine condition. But
last year, Greenscapes, we grew by almost 30%. That was 2 years in a row we did that. So there's about 400,000 landscape companies in the U.S.
yes,
We were the number 17th fastest growing. Out of 400,000, we were number 17 according to Lawn and Landscape magazine and the survey they do. So that means we do a lot of hiring and recruiting. And Mark, you're a big part of that. Sandy Schollard is our HR director. She of course does the vetting and screens and interviews and all that.
Right.
But we talk about some careers in the green industry, and particularly at Greenscapes.
well, I mean, we are a full service landscape company, so I mean, career wise, you can start with us lowly nursery guys. We
And we have a full nursery.
we have a full nursery. We do some propagation, so you are dealing with growing plants. You're dealing with propagating plants up from one size to another. Obviously, that brings along everything that we talked about in the first section, dealing with insects and root growth and diseases, and so that, again, you're getting the maximum growth and the maximum health out of this plant before it goes to the job site. We do all the shipping receiving in the nursery,
Sure.
as well as stock purchasing. That's mulch, gravel, edging, stone, pavers, whatever is necessary to do, chemicals for the yards and the installs. Yep.
It's all behind the scenes stuff that
right.
that
so,
clients don't see, but you guys are in charge of getting quality materials to the job sites.
Right. But if you don't start there, you're already on the wrong foot going to do your installs. Yeah. So, but from there,
we don't do a lot of direct shipping because we want to see the plant material.
Right.
We ship it to our nursery. You guys get it ready. Sometimes you take care of it. Like we talked the last segment, you may treat it with insecticide.
Correct.
You may treat it with an antidesicant. You might have to prune it a little bit.
Correct.
But by the time we ship it, it's ready.
It should be ready to go. Absolutely.
That's one career. You've got yourself, and you have 3 helpers. Full time in the nursery.
Correct. Got a nursery manager. I'm the purchasing agent, and then 2 apprentices in the nursery.
Well, we have
doing
designers.
all that work.
We have landscape architects, 1 horticulturist that are out doing designs for people.
Correct.
So that's a career. Currently, we're looking. We do have an opening for a design assistant. So we'd like to get somebody who has a degree in landscape architecture or landscape design.
Correct.
To come in. CAD would be important because all our designs are done on CAD now. We do some SketchUp, 3D type modeling.
Right.
So the clients get, a color rendered plan from our landscape architects.
Right. So what we brought in, they're able to actually see on a piece of paper.
Right.
That's going to be installed in their yard and maintained.
Yeah.
From there, we obviously our production crews are the forefront of what we do. They plant everything. They prepare the site. They amend the soils. And a lot of knowledge is needed for that.
We have an awful large skill set there. We added up out of the 60 prime people that are out doing work every day. It was 440 years of experience, but just at Greenscapes.
Wow.
I'm not talking about industry-wise. I'm talking about
just our crews.
How long those 60 people have worked at Greenscapes is 400.
That's a lot of knowledge because, again, you don't want just anybody walking in your yard digging a hole because that plant's not going to survive. It's not going to thrive.
And even on the install, though, you could be doing, you could be a hardscape foreman.
Correct.
Putting in walls and patios and the hardscapes.
And our 3 crews that do that, there's probably another 60 years.
Yep.
Between those 3 gentlemen.
Greenscapes is that, and then we do have crews that are more specialists in plant material.
Yes.
In installing the plants.
Yes.
The big part of that too is the topsoil we use. We use custom blended topsoil that's made for us. And it's superior to what is in most yards, especially in the suburbs now, where pretty much all the topsoil is gone when we get there. So we have
stripped
to bring
and sold. Yep.
So that's a career. You can come in and you could be working in hardscapes. You could be working in landscapes, installing.
Right.
Then we have, of course, crews that go in and maintain these landscapes.
Right. And we're not just talking the lawnmower cutters. Yes, that is an important part of making our job sites beautiful after the installs and the sod's laid and the grass seed is spread and growing. But there's the detail work when it comes to pruning, when it comes to, okay, was this hedge meant to be individualized shrubs, or is it actually a hedge that is supposed to be used to shed out car lights from the streetway? So right. It's detailed work. It's fine-tuning and making sure that what's been installed continues to thrive and continues to do what the client wants.
And what skill sets are necessary to get started at Greenscapes? Do you need to be experienced? Do you need to have a degree? What do we look for when somebody comes in and
You know what? I would rather a young man walk in there with a positive attitude and a willingness to learn,
right,
than somebody who comes in and says, I've been doing it for 20 years. And the reason I say that is, one, we're willing to provide the training, and we have the years of experience to provide that training. But not only that, their first day in Greenscapes is going to be with me, walking the nursery, walking the property, learning how to handle these plants, learning how to plant these plants. I mean, we physically dig a hole, we physically amend the soil, we physically show them how to stake the tree, how to mulch them, how to do this all properly. If they choose not to stay with us, at least we know that they're going to go out and continue to do proper work, rather than to see mulch mountains and shopping centers and leaning trees and issues in the landscape.
I think the common thread, though, is that whether you know, young man, young woman, you know, they come to Greenscapes, is that they like the outdoors.
Exactly.
And they don't mind getting dirty. You know, you're gonna get dirty.
You're gonna get dirty. You're gonna smell. But when you walk away from that property each night, and you've accomplished what you set out to do that day, that you were asked to do that day,
right?
It's visible. Bill, 30, almost 40 years later, I still go and look at trees that I planted 40 years ago.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I can't believe how big they get.
What other industry can you do? I can't go look at that Honda Civic that was made 50 years ago unless somebody was, I want to say dumb enough, but smart enough, I guess, to keep it as a historical car.
Don't pick on Honda.
No, I don't want to pick on Honda. I don't want to pick on car enthusiasts. But you know what I'm saying. It's so visible.
They like to work outdoors.
Right.
They could never work in a warehouse. You know, there's a lot of packaging jobs now in Columbus, and you know, standing at the conveyor belt and loading up packages, and they pay well. But what I find when I talk to all my guys, they're hunters, there's fishermen.
It's not about the money.
Morgan, who you know is a college intern, she loves it there.
Right.
And they love to be outdoors.
Yeah, this is her third year coming back, just as an intern.
Yeah.
So
we do get college students. I always tell parents that, hey, you want to make sure your kid stays in college and graduates, give them to me for the summer.
There you go.
A lot of them say, you know, I think that college career is looking pretty good right now.
Yeah.
But we hope that they go on, finish college, and then they come back. And a lot of them do. They come back. They work for us in the office. They can be a production manager, where they go out and oversee these jobs, supervise them. If they have a degree in design, they can come on board and be a landscape designer, landscape architect.
I think there's only two in the 5 years I've been with you. I think there's only 2 interns that we haven't hired.
Right.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
But
we do have openings right now. If you want to know more, you can contact Sandy Schollard at 837-1869. We have complete benefits. The package of benefits also includes family health insurance, of course, vacation pay, and we have a 401k where we match 50% of the employees' contributions up to 6% of their annual pay. We also do something unique. In addition to 401k, we do an annual profit sharing.
Yep.
We take a percent of the profit and distribute amongst everybody, and that's always nice at the end of the year to get that check.
I've never heard anybody complain. So
well, that's our show this week. Thank you for listening to Down the Garden Path. About 27.